Okay, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. Today's Tuesday, and there's some pretty important news, not a ton of it, but the news that we do have is somewhat important. So we're on the 13th of May, and it's 6:31 in the morning, so I am able to get out there earlier. I'm going to try to get a little earlier than what I got now, but I'm targeting my time 6 to 6:30 in the morning. That's Israel time. Okay. I'm going to try to keep it up at this level. I believe the Lord wants me to reach other people, and I could do that this way, it appears. It probably will work out. So let me jump into the live stream while people are coming in, make sure it's working, and then get my posts up. And I got discombobulated here. Okay. Let's see if we got sound and picture. Okay. We got sound and picture. And I've got moderator. Thank you to the moderators. So I'm getting up about 4 in the morning now, but I go to bed real early anyway, so. Okay, let me get my posts up while people are coming in. It gives them a chance to get in. When my wife gets back, which should be before the end of the month, it'll be easier for me to get out here on the air a little bit earlier, 15, 30 minutes earlier for sure, because I don't have to worry about the dogs. I feel much better too, because I was dragging out what I was doing for a lot of hours because I didn't want to get on too early, but those days appear to be over. Okay, let me get my email address up. Hey, Wordsmith. The moderators make life much easier. My thanks to them. For much of the United States, it must be a pretty easy time to watch the live streams. East Coast, not so much, but Central and Western time should be pretty good. I do have some people in Hawaii. I don't know how it's going to affect people in the rest of the world. We'll find out, won't we? At least I would say 65% of the people come from Canada and America. And Canada has basically the same times as America. Okay, let's do some praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay, I think it's too warm for the sweatshirt. Take that off. It's going to be in the low 80s or the mid 80s today, something like that. Not very hot. We got away from the high 90s. I'll just put this down. The floor was just cleaned yesterday, so nobody's been in here. Okay, the Houthis in Yemen took down another $30 million, what's called an MQ-9 Reaper drone. I told you these days ceasefires, truce, treaty doesn't work. We've not seen it work anywhere. Okay? India, Pakistan war has increased, but I'm getting ahead of myself with that. How did this come about with shooting down the Reaper drone, which was in Yemen or over Yemen? Well, it's not hard to understand what happened, okay? America was probably concerned about Yemen, so they flew a Reaper drone over the Houthi sites in Yemen, not to destroy anything, but just to take a look at what's going on. Maybe they figured that the Houthis would be relaxed because America's not bombing them, and they may try moving some weapons around that they had hidden underground, and they'd like to know where that was, just in case. But the Houthis in Yemen interpreted that, this is my understanding or my interpretation or idea or what happened. Probably, I could be wrong, but they probably interpreted this act of surveillance as an act of war. Why is America surveilling us if there's a ceasefire? What's up with this? They're violating our airspace, you know. So they took the drone down to teach America a lesson. Now, mind you, they've been running around since the so-called ceasefire with America. The Houthis are telling the people that we beat America down and they gave up, they surrendered, right? You know, the whole thing is stupid because if America could have just stopped bombing them and moved their warships a good distance, well, they're already out of range, and that's the end of that. But instead, they said they'd make a ceasefire. And the ceasefire was still allowing the Houthis to attack Israel. So possibly America was trying to help Israel and run surveillance to see if the Houthis were going to launch missiles and where they were going to launch from, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. The last missile they shot at us, I think, was yesterday, and it fell down in Saudi Arabia. It passes over Saudi Arabia, apparently, and it failed to exit Saudi Arabia, went down in Saudi Arabia. Now, did the Saudis take it down? We got no reports of that. Is it possible the Saudis took it down? Yeah. But we don't know. Is it very possible their own stupid missile fell down on its own? Yeah, we don't know. The Saudis would never say, hey, we helped Israel and took down a missile, you know, because then the Houthis would unload on them. So, what's America's next move? Well, it's hard to say. There's two possibilities. There's three. One is Trump just acts like all other American presidents and ignores it like it never happened. Not so likely, but possible. Next is America says they violated the ceasefire. We're going to continue bombings. Maybe, but what's more likely is you violated the ceasefire. Why? You better not do it again, or we're going to attack. Oh, well, you flew over our airspace, and those Reaper drones can launch missiles, and we didn't know what you were up to, so we took it down. Stay out of our airspace, and it won't happen again. That's probably what'll happen. What will Trump do? Well, the fact that Trump's in the Middle East this week, Trump will probably do nothing because he doesn't want to be attacked in the UAE, Qatar or Qatar. I'll call it Qatar. I think it's pronounced Qatar, but we'll call it Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is especially vulnerable to Yemen because they have a border. So if Trump's in Saudi Arabia and they start attacking, attacking it and hitting it is two different things. Trump would probably be in Riyadh. I think that's the capital of Saudi Arabia, where the palaces of the royal dictators are, and they could force him to be in underground bunkers, and nobody knows how good they are. They could launch at Air Force One if it's on a runway someplace. I have never heard that the Saudis use underground hangars. It's possible that the Air Force One would land, disembark Trump and party, and then take off again with aerial refueling tankers and fly around. But he'll probably be there a day, and they're going to fly around for 24 hours. I don't think so. So the Air Force One could get hit. It could get stuck on the ground. They can't take off. Any one of a number of things could happen. Could they even hit Trump? Yeah. I mean, when they're in the palaces, they're not heavily fortified. There's no telling what Russia or China or Iran would give them in terms of missiles that could do the job. And they might launch, 15 of them. Maybe that's why the drone was there, to make sure that they didn't see the Houthis getting set up for launches. I think Trump should be here any hour, or he's here already, or he'll be here in the next 2 or 3 hours or something like that. He probably works on the plane. The plane does have a little bedroom. Maybe he takes a nap. I don't know what the guy does. He says he sleeps very little. Who knows? Do I know? I don't know. So they did a strike just before Trump came. What will the Iranians do, and what will the Houthis continue to do? And what's going to be the American response to another drone getting taken down? We got to watch this one. Trump will more than likely have two responses, okay? Maybe not. One for the public and one for the Pentagon, okay? And they may be the same and they may not. I'm sure they've already contacted these derelict lunatics, psychotic lunatics in the Houthi regime, and that is assuming they have direct contact with them, which may not be the case. And they may be using another go-between like Qatar or somebody to contact the Houthis for them, and they may ignore them. I don't know. But this is developing story. It's just hours old. Let's see how it goes. The Hamas did release the dual national American-Israeli prisoner already. He seems to be in good shape. He hasn't lost as much weight as the others, and that could have been they fattened him up. but it probably takes 2 or 3 weeks to do that. And I don't think they had that much time, and who knows. Netanyahu is now informing Israel publicly, officially, that we may have to move forward in time without relying on America for any kind of support. America's turning against Israel, or there's a strike coming on Iran, courtesy of Israel, and Trump wants Netanyahu to make it look like he's separating from Israel. So when Israel blows up Iran, Trump can say, well, they're a free country. They wanted to blow them up. They blew them up. What do you want from me? They did it. Which is exactly what Iran is saying with the Houthis in Yemen. Oh, they want to go attack. They're their own country. They make their own decisions. They go attack. So they're giving it back to Iran. That's probably the better explanation. The implications of Trump abandoning Israel, it's prophetic, but it doesn't just abandon Israel, he turns against it. And since we're so close to getting to redemption, I think that, it could be real. But I don't know, It could be phony right now, but it's going to quickly evolve into real. For instance, Trump tells Netanyahu, well, you can hit this and hit that in Iran, but that's it. And then Netanyahu doubles or triples it or something, like, who knows, Netanyahu is very hard to control. Okay. Trump is really behind the fake Israel, and a fake Israel is an Israel not restored to God, an Israel run by Satan bots that is really serving Satan and that type of thing. And this is the beast. That's the whore. The whore is Washington, D.C. That's the last verse in Revelation 17, the great city. That's Washington, D.C. in this time setting, okay? And they want the fake Israel because it helps them control the Middle East, but the beast doesn't like it. It's too dangerous, and he wants to get rid of it. So what he does is he burns up the whore and eats her flesh. The whore is an allegorical thing. Like the beast doesn't have leopard and lion and bear physical attributes to him, although the church artists draw pictures of a thing like that. It's describing his attributes, like a lion, a leopard, a bear, that kind of stuff. It's not that he looks that way, okay? It's his attributes. Satan doesn't look like a dragon. I've seen it in a vision. He's looks like an old man with greasy hair down to around the shoulders. He looks like he's 80 years old. And he was wearing a gray, coarse fabric smock that had like a little neck hole and a V thing, and it went down below the knees, not to the ankles, but below the knees. I saw him. This was many years ago, decades. I was in Israel, and I was sitting in my living room, and this is when the Lord was teaching me about the church not being the church, and teaching me spiritual warfare the hard way by pulling it out of the scripture over weeks and months with lots of prayer in the spirit and everything. And I went into a daytime vision, and I saw this thing flying at me coming from the Sea of Galilee. It was probably going, 50 miles an hour or something like that. And I had these huge windows that opened up. I mean, they were about 8 feet high, and it had a little level, maybe 2 feet, 2.5 feet that you could sit on with some rails so you wouldn't fall out. And it was mostly you'd open and you'd have a view of the Sea of Galilee. And he flew into the window, and I pointed my finger at him. Now, this was when I was still using the name Jesus, but I was referencing the Messiah in my heart, and the Lord knew that. I wasn't referencing the church Jesus. I was for years out of the church already. No, I wasn't. I was out of the church, but maybe weeks or months, because I was going to a Messianic. No. I was out of Messianic congregation for probably 2 years or so. But I was still in fellowship with some of the Messianic leaders in Israel, you know, which I had broken it off at that time. But anyway, I was still saying Jesus at some time. So I pointed up at the thing when he was in the room with me, and I said, "In the name of I was going like that, like Jesus." And he started shrieking like an animal in grave distress. And the shrieking was so loud that after some seconds, it snapped me out of the vision, and that was it. Okay. And then I started to realize what the result of them not listening to your commands, like come out of this person. Now, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, you got to use the name of the Messiah. And the pain and agony for them is serious, but they do conceal it from the person they were in and leaving. Now, could you say, any unclean spirit in John Doe shall come out from him immediately, and not conceal your fear and your anguish, and no delay, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach? You could. What good would it do? Well, it would probably rattle up the person they were in, but, so what? They're under such deep delusions, it's probably not going to do much, but you never know. It's worth a try, right? Okay. So Israel is happy the hostage got released. There's a lot of talk that Trump cares more about the Americans than the Israelis, and he wanted this American hostage out. Of course, he's a dual national. There's hundreds of thousands of dual nationals in Israel, American and Israeli, and then you have some British, German, Canadian, some EU, some from India, but there's a heavy amount from America. Okay. Do I really think Trump cares about one American citizen? Nah. He did it for his own sake. He doesn't care. All right. So we're watching to see what Trump's next move is. He has egg on his face right now. He looks bad. He made a ceasefire with Yemen that they violated. Now, he would likely attempt to bring the ceasefire back. That's usually how American presidents work. Oh, well, we just got to go negotiate again, Will it work? I don't have any idea. It'll work with their demands. Don't fly any drones over our airspace and it won't happen again, that type of thing. And I don't know what Trump will say. He might agree to it. Okay. The new Syrian leader, the Al-Qaeda ISIS guy with a new paint job, is making serious mistakes with Trump. He wants Trump to remove the sanctions on that country. Well, let's not forget they're running around committing genocide on Alawites, persecuting Christians, which I don't think Trump gives a hoot about, by the way, and persecuting the Druze, and they're enforcing heavy-duty Sharia law and all this stuff, right? And is Trump, in the face of the genocide, going to relieve the sanctions? I mean, that's going to make the Donald look pretty bad, you know? But what the guy did tell Trump is you can build a Trump Tower in Damascus. Now, guys, let's get real. Who the heck is going to go buy a very expensive apartment in the Trump Tower in Damascus in Syria? Nobody. It gets better. Then the Syrian leader also told Trump, "We'll work a deal with you on the oil in Syria." There was a pretty strong implication, "We'll partner with you on the oil in Syria," which is where America has their bases. So America already has the control of this oil in Syria, and they're protecting it for American companies that are profiteering off of it. So what did this guy offer Trump? Pretty much nothing. Trump will take notice of will joint venture with the oil, because there's probably other oil fields that could be exploited, and there's probably refineries and oil fields that once were operational that aren't, that they can bring back and things like this. So Trump may take that seriously. But not being the village idiot, Trump's going to sit there and say, well, if we spend billions developing more oil and rebuilding refineries, I have to leave more soldiers there to protect it. And it's still going to be a target for Iran. So I don't think he's going to do it. I think the story's going to unfold like you convince us you're done with the genocide and you can run your country with peace, safety, and protection for all the people living there, no matter what their religion or race is. And then we'll talk seriously about sanctions. Trump will probably ask him for a 6-month window or something. I don't know. But that's what's going on over there. Lebanon is a little quiet. I don't think we attacked it in the last 24 or maybe even 48 hours. We haven't attacked Syria in several days. The Syrian leader also told Trump they would get into Abrahamic Accords with Israel. Okay? He also said that. I got to do some spiritual warfare for a moment. They keep trying, but I keep kicking them down. Okay. I'm going to get more and more aggressive with them. Feel free to do spiritual warfare on any entity trying to do evil spiritual warfare against anybody watching or listening to the video of me or my wife or anything we set our hand to, and lay it on them, lay it on them. Okay, let's see what's going on in the live stream. Are these remote drones? The Reaper drone is a very sophisticated $30 million drone. It can do many, many things. It can fly quite a distance. It's probably being driven by the American warships in the region that are out of range of the Houthis. You could answer someone else's question, I suppose. It's just what we don't like to see is people come into the chat that we never saw before, right? And let's say you got Stephen in there, and then Stephen has another one in there named Mary, and he gets in there and says, "Hey, Mary, how you doing? Hey, Steve, what's going on today?" And they start acting like they're old-time members of the community here, and then they try to reach out and become friends with other people when they're nothing but Satan bots. Okay, that's what we really don't want to see. Okay. No, they can cross communicate if they want to answer questions and stuff like that. But if they start trying to make believe that they're, big deal in here, we'll get rid of them. We could loosen that up a little bit, with answering another person's question. We could let them do that. That's not SBOT activity. Now their answer may be incorrect, but that's okay. We want to encourage people talking, and sharing, but I don't want people trying to do deception. So I would say let them answer other questions. If it gets out of hand, we'll stop it again. But so I don't think Trump enjoyed having the Syrian leader say you could build a Trump Tower. See, a Trump Tower is not a government project. It goes into Trump's pocket, the profits, But these idiots, in Syria, the HTS government didn't know any better. They did it. And why did they do it? Because the idiot in Qatar, the dictator of Qatar, it's, I believe, a royal family. Maybe I'm wrong, but just gave Trump a $400 million jet. Now, it went to the government and Trump's going to use it. It's probably more luxurious than what Trump, the Air Force One is. So, how could it be? Well, it might have a better bedroom, a better kitchen. It might have a jacuzzi, a bathtub, a shower. I don't know what else it might have or may not have. I don't know. But do I think it was wrong for Trump to take that? Of course. Of course it was wrong. What do you think? Trump believes that he who dies with the most toys wins. If you got a lot of money, you're approved by Satan. And Satan's his God, just like all the other presidents, going right back to George Washington, the Mason. They even got a picture of him as a Mason in the White House. The Mason. Ben Franklin on the $100 bill, a Mason. George Washington on the dollar bill, a Mason, a former slave owner. You know, Qatar had an open slave market. Yeah, like the Roman Empire, where you go in and they take the slave and they put him up on a platform and they show you his teeth and have him bend and move around for you and auction him off. Up until 1970, they were selling slaves in Qatar. All these countries are dirty dog pigs. They run by dictators. Okay, what's not run by a dictator? The lunatic Shiite nations like Yemen. Gaza is really kind of run by the dictator Hamas. Lebanon, no, not run by a dictator. Turkey, an elected dictator, half and half, right? Iraq, I think, is not a dictator. Jordan's a dictator. Saudi Arabia is a dictator. Oman is a dictator. UAE is a dictator. Kuwait is a really bad dictator. Bahrain is a dictator. They're dictators. And the other side of the Muslim fence, like the Shiites, which is Iranian, they don't feel that the kings, the emirs, royal families, they're dictators, and they don't think that they should be allowed to exist because they hoard all the money for themselves and not give it to the people. What Iran does is basically they're an elected dictatorship. They got in power by revolution in 79. And they do have elections, but the supreme leader can override the elected officials, and he's not elected. So it's a dictator, but they flavor it a different way. See, they flavor it as a Muslim caliphate. A caliphate is like an organization of Muslim states and regions, geography, and so forth. And it's run by what's called a caliph, who's a 50% or roughly 50% religious leader, like Khomeini, and a 50% political leader, like Khomeini. So Khomeini is a caliph, but they're not calling him that yet, because they never will, I don't believe. Iran would love to have control of the whole Middle East and call it a caliphate, like Turkey had many years ago, but they lost it in 1917 with the British. All right, so that's Iran's goal here, okay? Now, Syria was run by a dictator till HTS overthrew him. Now Syria's run by an Al-Qaeda ISIS lunatic in a new paint job. He puts a suit on and trims the beard. I use the term he very loosely with that individual. UAE just got $1.5 billion, I think, of weapons from America. They bought them. The UAE is a sitting duck for a war. Why? They built the place up like America in a way. Okay, let me explain. They have billion-dollar amusement parks. The Warner Brothers makes an amusement park like Disney. Nowhere near as elaborate, but rather sophisticated, though. Nowhere near as large, and maybe the whole park is the size of one of the parks that Disney has, or maybe not even. And then they have competitive type theme parks. I don't remember all of them. Ferrari World, all kinds of water slide parks, other ride amusement parks, massive shopping malls, huge high-rise buildings. I think they go 110, 120 stories up, hotels, apartments, combos. You know, they put the hotel on the lower floors, maybe the first, 12 or 15 floors is a hotel, or whatever, right? And you have certain elevators you use for the hotels, and then the residents have a different entrance, and they go in that entrance and use different elevators that the hotel can't access to go to their residences. And a lot of people like that because they can pick up the phone and call the hotel dining rooms, which when you're dealing in, a 15 or 20-story hotel that's a 6-star or a 5-star, there's going to be at least 3 or 4 restaurants in the place, right? They might have a steakhouse, like a buffet. They might have a fish place and maybe an Italian place or something like that, right? So they could call the restaurant on the phone and give them their apartment number, and they usually have an account with the restaurant and order a meal. And, 30, 45 minutes, an hour later, they deliver it up to the room, to their residence. So they don't have to cook. And these people generally don't care about dropping $200-300 on a meal. And the meal will come up there and they just eat it at home, and then they put the dishes usually outside the door in the hallway. And the restaurant knows to go back, 3, 4, 5 hours later and pick up the dishes and take them back to the restaurant. That's how they generally do it. In addition, there would be concierge service with the hotel. So they could they could send somebody out to buy something from them and then bring it back, or pick up something from FedEx, or bring something to FedEx and ship it out. Or, well, the hotel will usually do the dry cleaning for them. They could order alcoholic beverages from the hotel bar and have it brought up. They don't care if it costs $25 a drink. They could get the masseuse and masseur from the hotel. The hotel would have a beauty parlor salon, so women in the residence could go down in the building to the beauty parlor and get treatment. Some of the more elaborate houses would have their own beauty parlor salon built in with all the equipment, so they would just have somebody from the beauty parlor come up there and work on them using their own equipment. They could have valet parking. Of course, there's security in the lobby that's going to be rather extensive. Gift shop, they could order things from the gift shop. This kind of stuff goes on, right? They get to use the hotel swimming pools. Now, the building might have their own pool on the roof. I don't know if you've ever seen these things, but I have. There are apartments in a lot of countries around the world where they put a swimming pool, usually 30 or even 40 feet. Sometimes it's just a lap pool where you have water resistance, which is about 12, 15 feet. But at times it'll be a 30 or 40-foot pool, usually about 5, 6 feet deep. And they put it in penthouses. So you have your own swimming pool in your apartment. And it's usually put outside, like they build a very strong balcony for it, and it's put outside. Sometimes they put it inside a room, and the room has sliding glass doors. So when you go swimming, you could open the sliding glass doors, and you'll have a lot of fresh air and a lot of daylight. But you still have a roof over you, you have a wall behind you and on the side. So it's only open on one side. This is not rare. It goes on. People have this. They can structure it. If the architect incorporates the building with the structural support for this, for the weight of the water, they can do it. It could happen. And it's like they do it in hotels all the time. They put them up like that. San Francisco many years ago had at least one high-rise building, high-rise maybe 15, 18 stories or something, not very high. And it had like a 40-foot pool on the roof. It was in the Dirty Harry movie, I believe. One of those movies Clint Eastwood did. It was in there. But it was real. They had it, and I'm sure they had other places. San Francisco's a lousy place for a swimming pool because it has very strong wind. Not that strong, but it has cold winds practically all the time. So the only time of day you can really use your swimming pool with any comfort is from about 11 in the morning to maybe as late as 3 o'clock. When I was in graduate school, I used to drive to a coastal area where they had the Pacific, and there was like a ledge that not very many people knew about, but some people did, and you could go over there if it was the right time of day and lay out in the sun and get a tan and all the fresh air and the blowing off the water. It was probably you had to go down this ridge and then probably 100 or 200 feet to get to the water line. And you'd hear the waves. It was quite nice. I used to go over there and study. I'd put a towel down. But I found myself a lot of times trying to press myself as low to the ground as I could because the breeze was cold. So when they build these pools in San Francisco, they put glass walls around the pool. Not that high, usually maybe as little as 3, 4 feet up. So when you're laying down, you don't feel the wind. Now, I had an apartment when I was in graduate school that had a pool. It was about a 40-foot pool, and it was built, the pool was in the center, and then it had apartments here, here, and here. So on three sides, you had you had big wall. You had a 2-story high place, and there wasn't any wind. And then the pool was recessed down a few steps, and there was another area that was kind of open. It had a metal gate. You needed a key to get in. And there wasn't much wind, and if the wind came in, it would blow over your head. So that was nice. You could lay out there in the sun. I studied out there. I think that was the summertime I was living there. It was a beautiful apartment, 2-bedroom. I had a roommate. It had a big balcony. It was 2 floors. It was really nice. And you could use the pool during the day, go down there and lay out by the pool, and you didn't have the wind. It was really nice. So anyway, they built the UAE up with artificial islands and gazillions of dollars of these mansions and very, very high-rise buildings where people would buy apartments and amusements and malls and highways, beautiful highways with overpasses. And you start raining missiles and drones into that country, and you're going to knock off multiple billions of dollars every day. Because wherever the stinking missiles and drones land, they're going to cost millions of dollars. It cause millions of dollars of damage. You can't miss. They built these artificial islands, and they put mansions on them, kind of near each other, too. An American mansion is usually going to be, to the point where you don't hear or see your neighbors. But these things, you can look at them on the internet. I mean, the next mansion is probably, 50 or 60 or 70 feet away. It's enough. You're not going to hear them very much, but your privacy is gone. So there's sort of, I would say, a pseudo mansion. And they build them so the back has like a swimming pool and a patio area, and then it's right by a little piece of sand. These are all man-made islands, and then you have the water. Now, I don't think anybody ever goes swimming in the water over there. They probably use the pool and they sit out there, but you're talking about, 120 degrees much of the time in the middle of the day. How long are you going to last out there? You got to get out there early in the morning, or when the days are long, you got to get out there like at, 6 o'clock in the evening. I would think from 12 noon or even 11 noon till about 6 in the summer, the long days, you're going to be over 100 degrees out there. So, and they sell these, they get, 5, 6, 7, 10, 12, 15 million. They don't get to 50, 60 million, but they're not that big. They're not that impressive. They're not that nice. They don't have the land. They're more like luxury houses, not really mansions or estates, but they're very expensive. And a lot of wealthy Muslim Arabs bought them to go over there for a vacation land, but a lot of it never sold. They keep trying to sell them. So if the UAE gets hit, man, the damage is going to just go ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. I don't think they're very big on agriculture in the UAE. I think they're very content on just flying the food in. They're dealing with very wealthy people, okay? They got commoners, let's call them that, working class that live there, and they probably have housing communities where they live in apartments, and I don't know how they make it, but, a lot of them are foreigners. So what do? They work in the hotels. They work in the malls. They work in businesses like, car dealerships that do maintenance on the cars. Stores that fix appliances, they do repair work, they do construction work, they make roads, this kind of thing. And they also have more of a middle class there too, that live in nice apartments, but they're not really super luxurious, but they're quite nice. And these are people that own little businesses, own stores, they're management in business, high-ranking people, people that work for architectural firms at a high level, construction, manages stores, big chain store, stuff like this. The cost of living in that place is out of sight. Anyway, they can get hit. It would be hilarious how quickly that place would fall apart. You got to remember, it's run by a bunch of jerks. Their children and grandchildren are the original idiots that started pumping the oil, and they grow up with a platinum spoon in their mouth, and they're rather incompetent, and they don't have to worry about going bankrupt as long as they can pump their oil, and they're squatting on Israel land. So Qatar actually had slave auctions in 1970. The Saudis were having slaves into the 80s, but it was quiet. Qatar was open. They had an outside slave market. Okay? In 1970. You think these people are any better today? I don't. The Saudis were doing it then. Now, in all these Arab countries, I would say Qatar, Bahrain, UAE, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, foreign workers, when they go to work there, they're treated miserably. Okay? Their passports are taken away by the people they work for. And a lot of them don't let him leave. It's terrible what they do. How many of them hire women from Asia, the different countries in Asia, and they have them work as domestic servants? And how many of them get raped? I don't know. I imagine it's quite a few. How many of them get taken advantage of? They work them 7 days a week, long hours. They treat them like dogs. All of these countries. See, their idea of how they see themselves is to conquer countries, get assets like oil, agriculture, many things, right? And use the infidels that they conquered as slaves. And the infidels are the ones that learn how to be architects, how to run an oil refinery, build it, how to make cars, and things like this. And these infidels are slaves of theirs. And they just basically sit around and have slaves peel grapes and feed them in their mouth like the Romans did. That's their idea of how they feel they should run the world. Dream on. All right. So not only are we coming to the end of the age and we're coming to the end of churchianity, we're coming to the end of Islamic terror and warmongering. Okay. And you're coming to the end of Hinduism and Buddhism and communism. All of this is going away. Catholicism, it's all going to fall apart. Okay. Very shortly. It's going to crumble. All right. Crumble. All right, let me look at the live stream, see if I got anything going on. I do take questions. What's going on with Russia and Ukraine? Well, Germany gave an ultimatum to Russia, which is a joke, that they have a very brief period of time to enter into some sort of ceasefire with Ukraine, or Germany is going to smack more sanctions on them. So what? Russia doesn't care. Big deal. They're still fighting. Zelensky and Putin may have a direct meeting for a ceasefire. Zelensky asked Trump to be present at it. That probably presents a problem to Trump because of logistics more than anything. I don't know if he'll do that, because Trump's going to want this meeting rapidly, and I don't think he just left the country to travel around the Middle East. I don't think he's going to want to leave the country for a while after that. So I don't think Trump's going to want that. But he would send Witkoff there without a problem, or Rubio, or both of them. He'd do that, The thought is that Putin wants a 30 or 90-day ceasefire with Ukraine so he can fortify his military forces. He's getting run down, his military. Could be. It could be. It's a probable situation. But the other side of the coin is Putin could be going through the motions of negotiation and never really intends to do anything serious with Ukraine except conquer them, which he's been unable to do for 3 years. So I don't see any peace situation developing in Ukraine so quick. I'm not seeing it. Trump is close to washing his hands of it, but he's still again giving weapons to Zelensky and Ukraine. So Trump made a real bad mistake with Yemen. He has a ceasefire with Yemen, and they just took down a Reaper drone. Yeah, right. What ceasefire? He called the ceasefire with India and Pakistan that some people say lasted 4 hours. It may have been 3. Well, what's the difference? An hour, you know? And that just is heating up and up. Now, Bangladesh may come in on the side of Pakistan, which is not that big. But you better take this seriously, because this will bring China into it on the side of Pakistan, which will bring America into it on the side of India. You better take this one seriously, okay? You really need to. If that happens, Netanyahu's going to say, America's tied up with Pakistan. Now I'll get Iran. See, Netanyahu knows that getting Iran's nuclear facilities is not something Israel can do. Okay? We have no MO, P penetrator bombs. We don't have any MOABs. So what's he going to do? He's going to knock out the radar. He might drop some other bombs that'll cause exterior problems only to the nuclear facilities. But he's going to get rid of their radar, okay? And then he's going to probably hit infrastructure, more ports and piers, more oil refineries. He's going to start busting them out. You see, what makes more sense? Interdicting Iranian oil tankers in the Persian Gulf, which is dangerous because the American ships could get sunk. The last thing Trump needs is to lose an aircraft carrier. He's going to look like a moron. America, with 5,000 human lives on an aircraft carrier, if it gets hit for real, they could lose half of them. Then he's got to go to war. Trump's scared, Trump's bewildered, Trump's confused, and he's flip-flopping. And he is turning against Israel, it appears. So where are we going with this? We just got to watch. It's going to go to wars. There shall be wars and rumors of wars. Volcanoes are up. That's columns of smoke in Mark 13, a birth pain. Earthquakes are absolutely up, and they're getting rather substantial. Okay, storms, various crazy weather events that are dangerous is up. People are ignoring that. The churchianity liars aren't talking to you about that, are they? No. Did you ever find a single church in America that tells you America's the daughter of Babylon? I never did. No. Let's do the prayer requests. We've got a few, and of course it's important. Okay, the first one is for AP, Alpha Papa, AP, Alpha Papa. Prayer is for healing sore throat and headache, kind of flu-like symptoms for AP, healing sore throat, headache, I guess flu-like symptoms for AP, healing. Okay, next, JN, Jack Nancy, JN, Jack Nancy, JN, healing. So I got VJ, Victor Jack, VJ, Victor Jack, VJ, healing. That's all I got. LN, Lima, Nancy, LN, Lima, Nancy, LN. So for LN, the prayer is help LN with the Lord should help LN with problems at work and help him with giving. That was what the request came into me as for LN. Okay. RG, Romeo Girl, RG, Romeo Girl, RG. The prayer request concerns a personal injury lawsuit where RG is a victim with damage. And the prayer request is for this personal injury lawsuit, the discovery goes well for RG and would get a good settlement without having to go to trial. So for RG, Romeo Girl, the prayer is to do well in the personal injury lawsuit with the discovery process, and that RG would get a good settlement without having to take it to trial. TH, Tango Hotel, TH, Tango Hotel, and LH, Lima Hotel, LH, Lima Hotel. So it's two people, TH, Tango Hotel, and LH, Lima Hotel. This is to toss them and they stop telling lies concerning Yeshua. So for TH and LH, it's a toss request that we toss them and they stop, and that the Lord would have them stop telling lies about Yeshua. That's what I got on that one. That's it for the prayer and toss requests. I got to check this for a second. Some deliveries are starting to move now. I think things were screwed up here when we had the holiday, and then following the holiday, we had the attack on Ben Gurion Airport, and I think they were delaying shipments or something going on. The other thing with domestic inside Israel shipments is a lot of reservists have been called up, and that leaves vacant positions in the workplace, and then everything slows down. That's a side effect of what happens, you know. Maybe some of you haven't thought about that. Netanyahu's new approach to Gaza is rather weird, unique, but not so unique. He's saying that they're starting to destroy the residences in Gaza so that the people in Gaza have no place to come home to when he moves them around inside Gaza. Now, this is Netanyahu's old theory, destroy real estate, not terrorists. It's rather stupid. But here, there could be a lot behind it. Remember, him and Trump could really still be buddies, but they're making it look like they're not. They're both liars. And he could be trying to get the people to get out of Gaza so Trump could open up a Las Vegas resort there and his family could make billions of dollars. Netanyahu did say the biggest problem he has with this is finding a country to take them in. The world isn't going to like this, but, what are they, okay, so what, right? Now, what America did with Diego Garcia yesterday or so was they took some B-2 bombers out and they're going to take more out. Why? Well, one reason that could be, it's a weak reason, but maybe is because it's near India and Pakistan, but it's not really that near. He wants the B-2s for something else. But what he's replacing them with is B-52s. Now, a B-52 is not a stealth bomber. It has no real stealth capability at all. So the only way you could use a B-2 is if there's no threat to aircraft in your target area. Well, Iran has considerable threat to a non-stealth aircraft because they have mobile missile launchers that have ground-to-air anti-aircraft missiles that are moving all the time. So it's going to be pretty hard to clean all those out. So the B-52 would be rather useful in Yemen because they don't have any ground-to-air defenses that are that dangerous. But whatever they do have would be taken out, I guess. So he might be thinking he's going to have to go back into Yemen. And the B-52 carries a huge amount. I think they carry 84 500-pounders, something like that. And it could be 250-pounders, but I think it's 500. So if you dropped a ton of those on whatever the Houthis have for an underground facility, like you dropped 500-pounders, you dropped 18 or 20 of them in one spot. I mean, you're going to shatter it, I think, Now, it depends how far down it goes, The other thing is the B-52 can also carry the mass ordnance penetrator, the MOP, and the MOAB, mother of all bombs, because it could carry, I think, 2 of those at the same time, and it could drop those. So maybe they wanted those to be used in Iran because they are totally going to take out Iran's radar. That's what they did. They're in the process of swapping it out. Anything we come up with a theory now is speculation. We don't know for sure. Libya. Apparently a civil war started in Libya. And the leader of Libya, I'm getting reports, but not many reports yet. So let's say it's not confirmed. But the report was saying that the Libyan leader, which would be the president or the prime minister or whatever he calls himself, Caliph, I don't know, was killed by Islamist takeover terrorists who are taking over the country. There is a civil war, and it could be that the leader was killed, and but it's a situation that's highly fluid at this time. It's moving, and we need a little more time to get a good feel as to what's going on there. But it looks like it's a real civil war. And Netanyahu is saying that Israel in the future may need to not rely on America for weapons and support. And if that was true, or if Netanyahu thought it was true, I don't think he would reveal it. No. So we're seeing wars pop up. Again, Libya and India and Pakistan's enhancing. And we never saw or heard Modi say, well, we're going to let Pakistan have the water. He's still not wanting to do that. And Pakistan is saying if he doesn't give us the water, we're at war with him. We're calling it an act of war. So none of that has changed. And Trump is trying to, take credit for making some sort of ceasefire that really is no ceasefire at all. Trump is not doing too good with the ceasefire. Now, he did make a deal with China. Now when it comes to money deals, Trump is good. When it comes to war, Trump is not good. He did cut a deal with China. China's tariffing America 10%, and they're tariffing China 30%. Let's see how long it lasts. It may go a while. China can survive with a 30% tariff. So let's say they are selling you a $60 radio. I'm just picking something, right? So it becomes $80. So can they get that $60 price down to, say, $45? And then it gets taxed up to 60. Yeah, the companies are just going to have to take a lower profit margin to be just as competitive, or use what's called the price advance, increase the price, and still hope it sells. And it probably will. So China's desperate for money, and this was the best deal they could get out of Trump. And they took it. Now, we don't know about any side deals, like, is Trump giving China an exemption to buy oil from Iran? You see, that's a sign of grievous weakness if he does that. He hasn't said he's done that, but we don't know if he has or has not done that. You see what I'm saying? In the past, the Americans gave India a permission to buy Iranian oil without having to suffer from sanctions. And they could have done that with, giving China an exemption to buy oil from Iran without sanctions. He didn't say that, and I don't know that. But it's something maybe they put into the deal, because I don't know why China took a deal with 30% on them and then 10% on America. But, if prophetic time allowed, Trump would probably bring in enough trading partners in favorable terms to, bring up the economy. The downside is for 30 days, this deal with China isn't going to take hold. Much of this stuff there's going to be a delay. People got to go back to work in the factories, right? They're not going to go back to work. Well, they'll go back to work with promise of getting paid. Then they got to put the goods out, get them on ships and planes, bring them over here, and then get them on the shelves and start selling them. It's going to take a month. The American companies are probably not going to lay off their workers because it's cheaper to carry them for that month, Now, it's put a dent in the competitiveness of the Chinese profits, but it can allow them to reduce their profits and cover the tariffs themselves, or they could reduce their profits and say cover the tariffs at 15%. So they bring their cost of goods sold, they bring the price tag to the consumer down by 15%, let's say, right? And then they have to bring the price up 15% to cover the other part of the tariffs and hope they're still very competitive in the marketplace. They could do combinations like that. Okay. Let's see what gold and silver are doing. All right, gold and silver. Let's take a look. I haven't checked it in 2 or 3 days. I don't think it did much, but it's worth looking at, right? That's an indicator to a heavy extent of the fear people have about the economy. Okay. I use Kitco, Kitco. It's very easy to use. Um, Gold's actually down a little. It's in the 32s, 32.52. And silver's kind of hanging in. It's maybe crept up a tiny. Well, but silver's in the 33s. Silver's holding its price. Gold we're keeping it around the 33s. Just wait for something to blow up and gold will shoot. I'm surprised the Pakistan and India war hasn't brought gold up more. I think people don't understand that if this war gets more hot, which it's growing every day, China and America are going to get involved in this thing. Taiwan and China is quiet right now. For some days, I haven't seen China circle Taiwan with their warships, See, people are most of the world is in a delusion. When you listen to them talk on the news channels and social media, well, this might happen, but it'll take a year or two of that. They have no concept of Bible prophecy that's accurate. They don't know what's going on with Israel. They don't know America's the daughter of Babylon. They don't believe the churches are false. They don't know that, well, a lot of people know, but they don't care. The churches teach false doctrines, and the people put up with it. And people don't understand that. Yeshua 4 times said everybody goes up on the same day, the last day, which means there's no more days. What does the church teach? They've created raptures that don't exist, where the church goes up in a rapture. Apparently Israel remains to go through a tribulation, where their version of it is either they take the mark of the beast and doom themselves to the lake of fire for eternity, or they get their heads cut off, which means there's no more Israel, because either they got their head cut off or they're serving the beast. And if they serve the beast, there is no salvation for them. So their doctrine actually eliminates Israel. Think about it. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me. I don't know where I'm wrong. Meanwhile, they're up in heaven and they're gods. Then they come down to reign with Yeshua as gods over whatever's left of Israel. But I don't know how anybody's going to be left from Israel with their doctrine. It's a joke. And they're going to be gods. Yeshua said he's going to reign over the nations, over the heathen, the goyim, with a rod of iron, not over Israel. They don't know what the year of redemption is. They don't know what the year of recompense is. They don't know what the day of vengeance is. The only thing they know is Ezekiel 38. They don't know Ezekiel 8 to 11. They don't know who the glory of God is. They don't know the next temple comes down from heaven. Okay? They don't know that you can't change the Sabbath to a Sunday or any other day, because the Sabbath is a holy day that the Lord sanctified, that the people shouldn't work because of the day he took, the day of rest, which is the Sabbath day, which in the Hebrew calendar, the Bible calendar, is, just to make it simple, Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. It's actually the Erev, the mixing of the day and the night, but we'll just say sundown to make it easy, right? So you actually should start your Sabbath at the Erev, the mixing of the day and night. But that's when the shadows are long. You could still see. If you dropped a dime on the floor, you'd be able to see it, that kind of thing. But it's anyway. The Arab, the word is Arab, and they have the word Arabit from that, which is Arab because it's a mix, because of, Abraham and Hagar. It's the mix. You get it? All right. So that's the Bible language, not the church language. So they're completely confused. They don't know about Zechariah 14. They have no idea Zechariah 12 and the siege, and it's well in progress. And they're going to go into shock. They don't know about everlasting life, which is not immortality. They don't know nothing. They have another gospel, and they're completely in the dark, and most people consider them believers. They're not. To be a believer, what do you got to do? You got to believe. What do you got to believe? The Bible. Who's Yeshua, the Word made flesh? When you believe the Bible, you're believing Yeshua. Do they believe the Bible? No. They have another gospel. They have another spirit. 2 Corinthians 11:4. And they have another Jesus. And to them, it's okay to break the 10 Commandments and save and move the Shabbat. So they're wiping their feet over a major doctrine in the Bible. And they have divisions, seditions, denominations. Is it a sedition? They have variants, different doctrinal statements, and they all accept each other's doctrines. So they accept conflicting doctrines. Is that not the church of the Antichrist? Is that not it? How could it not be? Not the beast, an Antichrist church. Antichrist means opposed to Christ, or does it? What does an anti-aircraft gun do? Is it opposed to aircraft, or does it destroy them? What does an antibiotic do? Is it opposed to your germs, or does it destroy them? Antichrist, destroying Christ, his reign, his children. That's what their goal is. It's way more serious. Wolves in sheep's clothing. Why don't they figure this out? They break the doctrines of the church all the time. It says in Galatians 5:19-21, if you do divisions and have variance, seditions is division, you're not going to enter the kingdom of God. I read it to them all the time. They just run away from me. They don't pay attention to it. It's always been in the Bible. It's not a disputed scripture, and they just don't want to hear it. Oh, we're under mercy and grace. All our sins are forgiven. And to many of them, maybe half of them, once saved, always saved. I heard a Baptist preacher many years ago once say, if a member of the church was having relations in process with a prostitute and the rapture came, he would be removed from the prostitute and taken up to heaven. And they think it's a real church. If you were a believer and you're laying up with a prostitute, you're basically like re-crucifying the Lord. Isn't that what it says? And they don't mind any of that. They don't respect Yeshua. They respect this Jesus. There's no J in the Hebrew alphabet. I don't believe God would allow the devil to run around saying he's Yeshua. So instead he uses another name, Jesus. And they think it's the same thing. I don't think he would let Satan run around saying he's Jehovah. So Satan runs around saying he's Jehovah. And they also created a new one where they say Yahweh. It's Yud He Vav He, Jehovah, not Yahweh. Words mean something in Hebrew. The names mean something. Yahweh means nothing. It's not a Hebrew word. We don't know what it is. Jehovah doesn't exist. There's no J in Hebrew. There's no TH sound, like you wouldn't have Elizabeth in Hebrew. You can't make a TH sound. They don't have it. They do it as a T, a ta. So they would say Elizabeth. They don't do a TH in Hebrew. It's not in the Bible either, the TH in the Hebrew. It's not there. So there's certain things that just can't exist, you know. The Israeli people don't often understand the difference between different churches. They refer to Yeshua a lot of times as being with the one from Nazareth, Im Natzarim. And they don't differentiate between a Catholic, a Baptist, a Pentecostal. They don't understand it. They don't know. Do they know about Zechariah 12? I have never seen or heard of a single rabbi talk about it, but they got to know about it. And some of them seem to know that redemption for them is coming very near, extremely near, like me talking near. And they know, and it's true. And they know it. They don't talk about it too much. Now, I'm talking about rabbis that are not interested in preaching to the churches or the Gentiles. I mean, they have no interest in that. They're just working with other Jews, and they're operating in Hebrew predominantly, and they talk like this. They also know we're going to get the land back, and it's sometimes shocking how much they know. but they're still, to this day now, blinded, and their ears are stopped up. And the church doesn't know who Ezekiel 37, the dry bones, are. They think it's them. It's not them, but they think it is. They're taught to attribute all the good stuff to themselves and all the bad stuff to Israel. Okay? That's replacement theology in spades, or to the nth degree, or, multiplied severely, however you want to talk about it. It's, a royal flush of evil that Satan teaches them so they don't go near Israel. I see them here come to Israel as tourists, and they don't even pay attention to the Israelites. They just look at the land. They don't care about the Israelites. They're just here to see the land. And they're waiting till they reign over the Israelites as gods. And they're going to hit them with the rod of iron. It's so bizarre. But there's billions that believe it. There's 2 billion. There's 1 billion in Catholicism and 1 billion in the, nominal Christians, Episcopalians, Presbyterian, and then you got the Lutherans, and you got the nominal Christians, and you got the Pentecostals and all that, So there's 2 billion of them running around in sheer utter delusion. Broad and wide is the road to destruction, and many find it. You tell this to them in the church, it doesn't register. Straight and narrow is the way, and few be that find it, and there's very few. So I'm trying to reach more by putting the live streams out earlier so people can pick it up without it being the middle of the night. And it may work and it may not work. I don't know. But I'm trying it. And when my wife gets back, I hope, if it's successful, I'll continue doing it, or I might have difficulty doing it because I might wake her up. I don't know. Probably won't, because I could shut the door to the office and she'll usually sleep through it. She won't hear it. I could probably get away with it. I don't know. Maybe I should try to get a microphone. If any of you have any ideas, I can't, as far as I know, plug a device into this Android. It's a Samsung tablet. And I don't believe I could plug anything into it. So I need to have a microphone that works on Bluetooth. And I don't know if those are any good on Android. I never tried it. I tried doing it with the iPad. It wasn't successful. So if any of you have any insights onto that, let me know. I don't know. I should look into it, because that would mean I might be able to talk quieter. But I really don't think she'll hear me with the door closed. But anyway. Yeah, they're headed, the church people are like in a car going 100 miles an hour headed at a brick wall 10 feet thick. And they have no idea. Try teaching them. Try helping them. You can't, can you? So I tell them now, you don't understand what I'm saying now, even though it's in the scriptures. See, they're not real believers. If they were, they would know something is wrong and they would come out, or they would be real confused about it and they would receive the truth, but they don't, do they? So are there still real believers there? I don't know for sure. I think so, but I don't really know. Maybe they're not. Maybe they came out. I don't know. But probably, in my opinion only. When they start seeing the flesh things happen, they'll be like what they call doubtful Thomas. But Yeshua said, better, the ones that never saw Yeshua and had the faith, it's better for them. But even if you needed to see it, put your hand in the holes that Yeshua had to believe it, that would be okay too, because you're coming to the faith. So maybe when they start seeing things happening, they'll come around. I don't know. If they're not called, I mean, many are called, but few are chosen. If they're not chosen, they're not the elect, they're not the remnant, then it's never going to happen. And God knows it, and we should know it too, because they're not for heaven. Then it's not for them. Okay? Now, a wolf in sheep's clothing, how does that work? They look like they're a sheep. They look like they're a believer. They talk like a believer. What you see them act, they act like a believer. But inside, they're a ravening wolf that wants to rip the throats out of the sheep. That's what the Church of the Antichrist pastors are, but people don't know it. And they won't believe it. They will when it's over, but it's going to be too late for a lot of them then. I keep wondering what's going to happen to Central and South America. I don't know. I don't see any wars there. God did scatter the Israelites into those countries. I think every one of them still has Jews in there now. And those nations should be destroyed. Of course, he says he'll destroy all the nations he scattered the Israelites into. And, Jeremiah, 30 verse 11, and Jeremiah 46 verse 28. And the church doesn't know about this, and they don't believe it, yet it's right in their Bible. See, you're dealing with people that read the scriptures and don't believe it. That's the Mormons, too. Also, that's the Jehovah's Witnesses. That's also the Christian Scientists. They read the scriptures and don't believe it, and they're not believers. So why do you think the church isn't believers? Why? 4 times Yeshua said, John 6:39, John 6:40, John 6:44, John 6:54. He said all the believers that the Lord gave to him, he's going to raise up at the last day. On the same day, the last day, there's no more days. It's after the millennium. And they keep running around making up raptures that don't exist. Pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib. And to make it worse, they all go around saying, well, we really don't know, so we accept the other guy's theory is possibly valid. So they preach false doctrines with full cooperation. And then these people that sit in the churches go around and argue for this and spread it, try to get others to teach it. Try telling them Galatians 5:19-21, seditions is a division, which is a perfect definition of a denomination. And people that do that will not enter the kingdom of heaven. And then in the Bible, you have it in Paul ranting on about Apollos and Cephas, and that's Baptist, Assemblies of God, Foursquare, Lutheran, Presbyterian, same thing. And it says variance. When you have different doctrinal statements, you're not going to enter the kingdom of heaven. It's right there in the Bible, and they refuse it. They refuse it. They place this church over everything, and it's a false church of the Antichrist. Antichrist church. And they keep placing it. So what would be the end of them? Can they ever come to faith? Well, when you go to the tares in the wheat in Matthew 13, the tares are the children of the devil. That's who's in the churches with the false doctrines. What do you think it is? They sit under the pastors. They love the pastor. The pastor's a wolf in sheep's clothing. The angels come and separate them from the wheat, which are the true believers. The wheat is gathered into his barn, which is Israel, in the next great Exodus, which is very shortly coming, probably days or weeks away. And the others are tied up in bundles, which means they go to the pit and then they await the judgment, and then they go to the lake of fire, because this is tied up in bundles and then burned in the fire. They have no idea what the fire is, and they're all hung up on this idea of mercy and grace and forgiveness of sins, and they think they could go around making a mockery of Jehovah and Yeshua, which is what they do daily. They make a mockery by breaking his scriptures and thinking it's perfectly okay. They teach the law is dead and done away with. What did Yeshua say in Matthew 5:17 and 18? They don't read 18, they read 17 only. They don't read verse 19. Yeshua said, think not that I came to destroy the law of the prophets, but to fulfill. They stop there and say you fulfilled it. Well, that's not what Yeshua was saying. The next verse says, for as long as there's a heaven and an earth, not one jot or tittle shall be done away with from the law. Well, there's still a heaven and an earth. They still insist the law is done away with because they don't want to be bothered with it. They want to be able to do just about whatever they want. And then the verse after that in Matthew 5 says, the one that practices or breaks one of these least commandments and teaches men so shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven, but the one that does them and teaches people to do them shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So the one that breaks one of the least commandments is getting into heaven. What about the churches that teach to break 360, including major doctrines like the Sabbath? Not only do they break the Sabbath, they moved it to what day? Sun God Day. What do you think it is? It's Sun God Day. People don't know any of this. They're ignorant. The Catholics have open idols. They have statues of the baby Jesus and they kiss him. That's a graven image worship. They Pope, which means Papa, which means father, call no man father. When you're calling him Pope, well, they even call him father. They got all kinds of names for him. And he has a gold cross, a big heavy thing with an image of a man hanging on it in a loincloth. Now that's a graven image. They never did that in the New Testament. They never carried a cross. They never made a cross. They talked about it allegorically, nail your flesh to the cross. They were telling you to stop acting in the flesh and work in the spirit, not to go build yourself a cross. That's acting in the flesh. They didn't put him on their places of worship. They didn't carry him. They didn't wear him. He wasn't even crucified like this. He was like this. This business with the hands outstretched was the way they sacrificed a victim to the sun god, Tammuz, the Sunday god. That's how they did it. And it was like this. And they don't even care. They don't even know. It's a cult. And they don't know. It's an antichrist cult. It's trying to destroy religion and makes a mockery of God. He's developed 2 billion people that read the scriptures, know the scriptures, and violate the scriptures and say they're the church of God. You never hear him come in here and tell me how they could violate the scriptures and it's okay. You never hear that, do you? No. Why? Because they can't. They don't know the scriptures. They just run away. Oh, how could I be wrong? How could Pastor Bob or Pastor Mary be a wolf in sheep's clothing? They're so nice to me. See, they don't know. They have no gifts of the Spirit. They don't have discernment. They don't have any of this. They don't pray in tongues. They don't cast demons out. Mark 16, either verse 16 or 17. These signs shall follow those that believe. In my name they shall cast out devils. They ignore that scripture. When you come to a house, send your shalom to the house. If the Son of Man be there, your shalom shall rest on the house. If not, it will come back to you. Did they ever teach or practice that? Never. Why? They can't. They don't have faith. They don't operate in faith. I don't know what they operate in. It's like a free for all. Some churches say baptize in the Holy Spirit. Other churches say don't. Some say pray in tongues. Others say don't pray in tongues. 1 billion of them sprinkle baptism. The other billion of water immersion baptism. Some of them want a house church. Some of them want a building church. Some don't want a denomination. Some want a denomination. Messianic congregations are in umbrella organizations, which are denominations. The same thing. They're just Jewish churches, the same Antichrist stuff. And that's it. Who does it say that Yeshua makes, that the devil makes war with? Let me read it to you. It's in Revelation 12. He doesn't make war on the church. That's why they do good in the church. They don't do good because they get cursed by the witches, the church witches and stuff like that. But when you talk to people that came out from the churches, they always tell you that their life got better. But Satan doesn't bear down on them that hard that are in the church. Why should he? He already has them. So it's in Revelation 12. It's towards the end. Let's see what the verse is. It's, I think, verse 17, Revelation 12:17. And the dragon, which is Satan, was wroth with the woman, which is Israel. Wroth is angry. And went to make war with the remnant of her seed. Those are the real believers, which keep the commandments. That's the law, the commandments of God. That's the law, which Yeshua modified quite a bit. And have the testimony of Yeshua. Now, that testimony word is martyria. Curious word. Let's see what Strong's refers to it as. Yeah, testimony is a good word. Okay. So he goes after the ones that keep the law, okay, the commandments of God, and have the testimony of Yeshua. Let's see in the Hebrew New Testament what the word commandments is translated, how it's represented in Hebrew. Let's take a look. Let's see. What the heck? I forgot which one this is. Salkinson, that's the one that's good. Okay, so it's verse 17. It doesn't say Torah there, no. I thought it did, but it doesn't. It's commandments. So that's because the Torah, I think, would mean just the books of Moses. But when you say commandments, it's all the things Yeshua said, like Galatians 5:19-21, for instance, right? So the church doesn't follow the commandments of Yeshua. You know that. They should know that. The scriptures are solid evidence of that. And they don't keep his commandments, and they don't have the testimony of Yeshua because they don't know from Yeshua. They know from their Jesus, which is the sun god, which I'm sure is probably Satan or some other high-ranking demon. That's what they got. So they have Christmas trees, contrary to Jeremiah 10, which says they take a tree and put gold and silver on it, and that's what the Christmas tree is. They even hang angels on it to ridicule God, right? And they observe this. They have singing Christmas trees. They observe Easter, Esther, which is the sun god's mother. They don't observe the Shabbat. They don't observe Bible holidays. They go for Mother's Day, Father's Day, which have evil origins, I believe. They go for presidents' birthdays. Their idea of prophecy is in complete gaga land. It's like Marvel comics. So why is Satan going to go make war with them? They spread lies and false doctrines. What does he want to get rid of them for? You know? They wouldn't understand anything about this conversation we just had. They wouldn't know what we're talking about. They go out from among you because they're not of you. They don't want to be with you. They can't. In Acts 2, the early church, which was messianic, they were all one in the apostles' doctrine. They didn't have division. They were all in the right, true, real doctrine. And what did they do? They sold their possessions to meet the needs of the others, the other believers. They had that kind of love. The churches are cold and dead. Even the Pentecostal ones, they're cold and dead. It's a cheap imitation. It's not the real church. When I first got saved and started going to the churches, I was saying, why don't they have church every night? Why do they have it just for an hour and a half on Sunday? Because they don't care about it that much. They go because to them it's, oh, I go, I'll have eternal life. I read the Bible, I pray, I'll have eternal life. That's, the Catholics put them in a series of rituals and catechisms and all that stuff that if they teach them, if they do these things, they're really going to be saved because it's the real church. And then the others teach them other varying things. They just tickle their ears. Some of them teach them how to get rich, which doesn't work. Others teach them, don't worry about your salvation. You're always going to be saved. And there's a million other doctrines. Look at the Mormons. They use the Bible. And they use other books. Well, so does the regular mainline churches. They use Schofield and Darby. Their ideas of other books are commentaries and study Bibles. Those are other books. Extra biblical explanations of what the Bible means. It's another book, like the Book of Mormon, Schofield, Darby. That's it. Do you know a lot of them are amillennial? Like uh, Catholics, Episcopalians, Presbyterians, Lutherans, many others are amillennial. The amillennial doctrine runs like this: Christ has been reigning for 1,000 years, actually about 2,000 years. So this is the millennium. The fact that the 1,000 years are up and nothing ever happened doesn't impress them. This is the millennium, and at any minute, Yeshua is going to rapture us believers in the church up to heaven and destroy the earth and burn it up, and they're going to go to the judgment. So they get rid of, there's no restoration of Israel. That's why a lot of these church people ignore Israel, because Israel's just going to get burned up. God's finished with them. He's going to destroy them. There's no redemption, no restoration, no millennium, no New Jerusalem. New Jerusalem is just an allegory. It's a story, and there's millions and millions and millions of so-called Christians that believe this. It's called amillennial. Yeah, it's a big one. Just as stupid as the pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib rapture. Everybody goes up at the same day, the last day. There are no more days. There's no early raptures and left behind saints. And, it's so bad, you know. And go try to talk to them and see. They're not believers. That's why they don't get it. But they're still mocking God. Worse than the Buddhists who never read the Bible, or Islam that never reads the Bible, or the Hindus that never reads the Bible, or the atheists that never reads the Bible. It's much worse on the church because they mock it. Well, we're not perfect. Why should the church be perfect? Well, you should, because it's not the church. That's why, goof. Yeshua said he's coming back for a church without spot, wrinkle, or blemish. These churches are so blemished and pockmarked, it's unbelievable. But the ones in there are not really saved. I knew one years ago. I thought he was, we were basically pretty good friends. Not very close, but good friends. And he went to, he basically changed his career, went to school, became a nurse, which is nothing wrong with that at all. And then he married a woman that is an unbeliever and tells him that she doesn't want to hear him talk about the gospel. And he agrees to this. And started listening to my videos a long time ago and disfellowshipped me, blocked my email, had nothing to do with me, of course, right? Marries an unbeliever, agrees not to talk about the gospel with her. So she likely was a Satan bot, or very likely not. Satan bots don't usually say that. They'll talk about the Bible with you. And, that's how they behave. Did any pastor in the church do anything to stop this behavior before it turned into a marriage? No, they don't care. If it feels good, do it. Why would this person, if they're a believer, want to marry an unbeliever, the most important part of their life? They couldn't share with the other person. See, they're not believers. They just think they are. Satan's good. He's murdering them, but he's not murdering them in the flesh. He's murdering them in the spirit for eternity. It's much worse. If he persecutes them for the faith, for having the real faith, and murders them, they become martyrs and get great rewards. But if he sucks them into mocking Jehovah, into false churches and spreading false doctrines and stuff like that, then he's murdering them for eternity, which is much worse. There you have it, So he's the father of lies and a murderer from the beginning, but he's a more accomplished murderer. Instead of attacking them in the flesh now, where they could still make it into heaven, he tries to make it nice and easy for them now so they make it to the lake of fire for eternity. Him and the demons are so sick and so demented. When you see the Muslims, those are his chosen people, the terrorist Muslims. Those are his chosen people. Okay, there's a prayer request. Let me read it. Prayer request for PC, Papa Charlie, PC, Papa Charlie, healing for bad pain. So prayer request for PC, Papa Charlie, healing for bad pain. Okay. Let me check the live stream. Where does the hate come from? I don't know whose hate you're talking about. I follow the scriptures. If you call that hate, sorry about that. Can't help you if that's your idea of hate. So I think that the Ukraine-Russia war for 3 years never really lit the world on fire, did it? Russia never really attacked Europe. Europe never really attacked Russia. Not much really happened, except the two of them were pounding each other. Nobody really won. But the India-Pakistan could be different because this has got global implications. We say India, Pakistan, but you better believe China is going to be involved as much as they have to be to support Pakistan, who's a proxy friend of theirs. They don't want to see China take out Pakistan, and then the border between Pakistan and China goes to India. So if India decides to invade them, they got a lot more geography to push through. India could put all kinds of missiles in there. America could help India. They're not going to like it. And America's probably going to help India, and Bangladesh will probably help China. And if China gets into it and they need help, then Iran, North Korea, and Russia, who have deals with China, will come to their assistance. And will Trump just walk away and let India fall down, or try to help India? Probably try to help India or let it fall down. If he sees that he can't save the day, he'll let it fall down. So you got to remember that this is a really big deal. And you got to think about many major powers getting involved here. Okay? Now, can Pakistan and other countries like Iran will help. Can they get revolutionary people going inside India to cause a lot of damage? I don't know. I don't know if they ever took the trouble to build sleeper agents in there or not. I don't know. I really don't know. Okay, so I guess that's what I got today. I will keep you guys posted on what's going on with the wars and all the other stuff. And I might have to go to 2 live streams a day. Right now, I could hold on. I do post a lot on Telegram, so those of you that use the Telegram are getting a lot of updates during the day. Telegram's free, the app's free, and all that. Okay. I put the videos up on Twitter, but I don't do much with Twitter. Twitter isn't really exposing me to people that are not already, followers or something. Twitter is censored. And Twitter is not what people think it is. I just don't pay attention to it very much. Okay. There's a lot of posts that come up on Twitter that are not reliable. It's just people putting their opinions up, and people lie. It's a weak platform. I don't use Facebook. I detest it. All right, so I'm Moshe. Please pray for me and my wife. Pray for our peace, safety, protection, joy, healing. Pray for our finances, and pray for our animals and pets that are all rescues, that they be happy, healthy, and whole. And pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for better videos. And I do try to answer questions. If you want to email them, which some people can put them up during the live stream. My email address is at the end of the description box all the way down. It's Israel Giving with the number 7 at Gmail. It's also towards the top of the chat. And I have offering information at the top of the chat and in the description box towards the bottom down. And pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And let's do the Kohanim blessing, because I am a Kohanim and I have the Holy Spirit. And I do live in Israel, where it says in Ezekiel 20, starting around verse 33, that's where he accepts you. So we'll do that, and I'll pull it out in a second. I'll read it to you for real, and not just reading it, we're actually doing it. I got to find the verse. It's in Numbers 6, verse 23. Numbers 6, verse 23. Well, 22. And Jehovah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, now I would, since I'm derived genetically from Aaron. I'm the son of Aaron many generations down the road, of course, saying, on this wise he shall bless the children of Israel. And that word is sons of Israel. And it would apply to the grandsons, great-grandsons. It applies to the women too, I believe. Of Israel, saying, now I'm going to do this for real. Jehovah bless thee. And now this is directed at all the true believers watching as a live stream or as a video. Okay? Jehovah bless thee and keep thee. Jehovah make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. Jehovah lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee shalom. And I put the name of Jehovah on or upon the children of Israel, the real true believers that are watching this as a live stream or a video, and Jehovah will bless them. And I do this B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, do all things in the name of Yeshua, right? That's a scripture. So when the rabbis do it, they don't do it the way I do it. They don't have the Holy Spirit. They don't do it in the name of Yeshua, etc. All right. So I hope this new time works out. And I feel right now the way I usually would feel before I start the broadcast. Of course, it's a little before 9 in the morning, which is often when I start. So it's working out. I just go to bed early, which I do anyway. Okay, so I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. Thank you to the moderators. Much thanks. Thank you. And I'm out.